Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've made a video because I kept bouncing back and forth between what topic to talk about. My fashion stuff is still in the works, so instead of waiting until that is done to post, I figured we would continue to talk about my background a little bit before we start getting deeper into these conversations and deeper into these topics that we will eventually be discussing. The background is very important because it allows you guys to see where I came from, where I am now, everything that happened in between, how somebody who was like that before got to how they are now. Because I was not always like this. I did not always have, and I even to this day struggle. Sorry that you hear my dogs trying to come bug me. I still struggle on a daily basis with anxiety, with my thoughts, with negativity. That is something that I have to work on a daily basis, and we will get into that. But right now we are still discussing my family. The last video we were discussing my sister Corinne. That was a very big part of the family and the dynamic. Sorry, had to tell the dog to get out. But that was a very big portion of my childhood because me and her were so close in age that most of my interactions with any other children, it was with her. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about my older sister. If she ever listens to this, I'm not sorry, because you need to hear these words and you refuse to listen to us any other way. And I understand that a lot of where people struggle when they have a sibling like this, a parent like this, a friend like this, is they think that they can change them or that they can help them change. You can't. They must come to that conclusion themselves. They must be willing to help themselves first before you can do anything to help them. I'm not saying not to try, but at the same time, don't waste your whole life trying, and you just get kicked in the face every time you try. Or you get your hopes up because, oh, they went to rehab and then 10 days later they stopped going to rehab. Don't do that to yourself. Is it sad to see that happen to a family member? Of course it is. But at the same time, there's really not much you can do. You can be there for them when they need you. Maybe. That really depends. But you have your own life to worry about. You can't sit there worrying about them and what they're going to do or what's going to happen to them. I have too much going on in my life to take on all of your problems. And that is also something that I struggle with. I am somebody that people like to come to just dump all their crap on. So I have to be like, not today, can't listen to it. I need some time to myself, okay? I can help you here and there, especially maybe if it's something big. But if you're just going to call me every single day to complain about the same thing you complained about yesterday or last week, don't do it. No. But sometimes I struggle with setting that boundary, okay? So that is something that I'm still working on. I'm a very empathetic person, so that's what makes that difficult, and that's what requires me to set that boundary, is because that empathetic side of me just takes it all, but then I keep it all, and I can't, but it's not that I don't care about their problems or what's going on in their life, but you can't constantly sit there listening to negativity and complaints all day long from multiple people. Don't do that to yourself. But anyways, getting back to my older sister. Growing up, really, since she was so much older than us, she was kind of just off always doing her own thing. we were not allowed to, you know, hang around her and her friends or do anything that they did because they were just too much older than us, okay? So really I only have a few interactions with her and none of them were good, just like today. None of them are good. That's why I don't interact with her. I just don't do it. It's really bad. And it's, like I said, it's sad to see it happening. I feel, you know, a little sad for like my parents because both of my parents went through addiction. One of them still struggles with it, but one of them has been clean and sober for like 20 years or something. So I kind of feel sorry for them to have to see that happening to a child since they went through it themselves. But again, there's nothing that they can do but hope that one day things are different. And another reason why I'm talking about all this family stuff is that I feel like a lot of us, especially with more than one sibling, we have similar siblings. Like everybody has a sibling who's the favorite child, who does no wrong, who does really good in school, who did. That was me. Okay. Then, you know, everybody has a sister who's kind of crazy and, you know, whatever. And then they have a sibling that might have been addicted to drugs and still is. And then they have another sibling who maybe was in and out of jail or, you know, we'll get into their personalities in another day. But my older sister, the two interactions I really recall having with her at a younger age. One time we got into a fight. I don't know what it was about, but it's always something stupid, okay? You know, kids fight over the dumbest things ever. Like, why are you fighting over a freaking pillow? Or, I don't know, okay? Ridiculous. And since she was so much bigger than us at the time, which is funny because she's the smallest now, but so much bigger than us at the time that when we got into that argument, I think I said something and she punched me like right here, right? Dude, I hit the floor like immediately and I was like, like I could not breathe, right? Like she just knocked the wind out of me. Oh man, I was struggling. I thought like, dude, I'm gonna die. But she's like over here screaming all this stuff, right? Well, I didn't do anything after that. I think my little sister came running in and was like, she can't breathe, you know? And that was like the end of that altercation, right? Never did we have an additional altercation until later in life. And I'm like double the size of her, okay? She's like 5'6". She's probably like 110 pounds. I'm 5'10" and I'm currently 219 pounds. At the time of those other altercations, I was probably around 185 pounds, but still much bigger than she is, okay? But she still has that same, just like my little sister, that same attitude, that same mouth, that same mindset, that same thought process. They still have all of that, right? So, the only other thing I really remember happening growing up when it came to her was back when we had home phones, right? But this was not, so my grandma still had the one connected to the wall, but we had, you know, the actual ones you stick on a little charger, but you could like listen in to other people's phone calls, right? If you had more than one phone. So one day she was on the phone with her friends and I was listening into the conversation because it sounded like something was not right, okay? And so I'm like listening and I was like, what are they talking about? Like they're tripping, right? So I don't remember the full conversation, but she was basically talking about the time she was at a friend's house and they all were like on acid or something like that, right? Like they were tripping. Like she was explaining like the visions she was seeing and all this weird stuff, right? And I was like, what? She's like 14 years old, okay? Like a freshman in high school. And so I told my mom. I think I had taken a few days though because I wasn't really like sure what to do. I was probably like, yeah, 9 or 10 years old, like not really like, what do you do when you overhear that conversation? So eventually I did tell my mom, and they tried to have a conversation with her. Now my timeline's a little skewed. Just so much was going on that sometimes I don't remember if something happened before something else or after something else. But that was basically the first time we had found out that she was doing drugs. These other scenarios, I don't know if they happened before we found out, after we found out. But basically, we found out she was like going to track after school, but really she was off doing drugs with somebody. She had some boyfriend who was probably like 6 years older than her. He was either a senior in high school, or out of high school. I don't remember, but she went missing for a few days. She didn't want to come home. She refused to come home. That's when the cops had gotten her. She spent like 2 or 3 days in juvenile hall, which wasn't enough. And she eventually got expelled from the school district because they found her in possession of acid. Okay, so she wasn't allowed to go there anymore. Ended up going to one of those schools for like kids that, I forget what exactly that type of school is called, but it's like for those who like are behind or whatever. Like it's still like a high school, but very small group of kids. And like she eventually did switch over to an actual high school again and finished high school. She graduated, but all of this I get makes my sister sound not so great, and I'm letting you know that's pretty much how it is. But what I think pains a lot of us the most is before and even on drugs, she's still very talented. I don't know how that part of her brain isn't like fried at this point, but extremely artistically gifted. Painting, drawing, sketching, all that stuff. Very, very talented. Just a great gift for that kind of stuff, right? What happened to it? Like, I know that occasionally she still draws now, but it's like if she would have pursued like that as a career, like maybe she'd be one of those people with like fancy art galleries somewhere selling paintings for thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands. I don't know. But she could have done so much more with her life. And honestly, out of all of us, because of that talent that she has, she probably could have been like the most successful out of all of us, right? But she chose a different path, and it's almost a shame because it's talent wasted, and again, there's nothing any of us can do to try to help her out, but it's just sad because she's very delusional. Like she is gone. Like you cannot even hold a conversation with her. She's having like 74 different conversations, right? But they're all conversations with herself. Like you can't get a word in. You can't keep track of the conversations because there's so many of them. Like literally every time she tries to talk, I'm like I can't, I don't know what's going on. Like it's like if you had a movie that had like 37 characters, right? And they were all main characters, but then you shoved all 37 of those main characters into one person, and that one person was to act out all 37 of those main characters in the movie. Like, you're gonna be lost in the sauce, right? But it's because she is so far gone that, like, I honestly think that even if she were to become clean, she would still be so far gone. Like, we're never going to get the Jackie back that could have been, or the Jackie back that we did have, or she's not going to be anywhere near normal, okay? And, you know, it just kind of sucks because, like, I don't think anybody ever plans to being like, I'm not talking to my family members when I'm old. Like, nobody thinks that as a little kid, you know? But I just can't. I can't deal with it. It's too much. There's so much going on. Her biggest issue, and a lot of people's issue, is zero responsibility, zero accountability, zero this is my fault. It's everybody else's fault. Why didn't you do this? Then maybe my life would be different. Well, you did that to me, so that's why my life sucks. You didn't follow through on your promises, and that's why I'm homeless. No, it's your fault. She's 31 years old. It's her freaking fault. Ever since she was 18, it's her freaking fault. Even before 18. You really can't put an age limit on where people can make decisions where you could no longer blame their parents. But at a certain age, you can't blame your parents anymore. You can't. Because all of those things, right, you learned. You weren't born with all that crap, right? You learned it from your parents, from your siblings, from your school friends, from society. You learned it all. But guess what? Since you learned it, guess what that means? You can unlearn it. Unfortunately, unlearning something takes a lot more effort than learning something does, especially if you've been doing it for a very long time. Okay? I am a huge advocate for you can make any change you want to make. Does it get harder as you get older? Yes. But I hate that excuse of I'm stuck in my ways. No, you just don't want to get unstuck. You're comfortable in whatever little hole you dug yourself, or however deep in the sinking sand you are, or quicksand, that was sinking sand. You know, however deep you are in there, you're comfortable. That's why they use that excuse. I'm stuck in my ways. No, you're not. Like, if everybody was stuck in their ways from a certain age on, the world would be a far worse place, okay? Because we'd all be stuck in similar ways, okay? But yeah, she's always pointing the finger at other people. She will never get to a better place in life until she's able to finally admit, but admitting's not enough, and accept it and believe it and work towards making those changes. But at the current moment, she has yet to put all of that beside her and say, you know what? My life is the way it is because of the choices that I am making. How can I make better choices? Well, number one, you gotta stop the drugs. and she doesn't even admit to the fact that she's on drugs. So that would be step number one, okay? I'm going to stop this one here. The next video, I will continue a little bit more about Jackie, and then getting a little bit into my little brother. Not a whole lot there either because he was 4 years younger than me, but we'll get into it a little bit, and then we'll just discuss that mindset and those issues just a little bit more in this next video. Just a heads up, I'm going to record it right after this. So you're going to see the same background and the same shirt. So I'll see you